until Genesis chapter 6, where he flooded the world because of the wickedness and the corruption of mankind. And so, in my belief, the story of Job, you can agree or disagree, but we're always told that and understand that Job is the longest book in the Bible, or the oldest book in the Bible. And it's my understanding and belief that the story of Job happens between the flood and the story of Abraham. So this is way back where the idea of our relationship with God was really unpolished. There wasn't a lot of things that they understood that we understand now through the advantage of the Bible and just the leading of the Holy Spirit and everything. But the creation of the angels was strike one. The creation of man and the wickedness and the flood was strike two. And the devil, knowing that he had no power over God, but was on a mission to attack and break God's heart. And he knew that after God had flooded the world, that God would once again put his hope and trust and love in someone on this world. And he went searching the whole world. I know if I can find that one person that God loves and trusts, and if I get him to turn his back on God, then I can break God's heart once and for all, and that will give up God's hope of humanity forever, possibly. And he had come to Job, and the reason he knew Job, there was something special about him, was because there was a hedge around Job. God had protected Job and watched out for Job, and so the devil was certain that Job was the one that would be the true indicator of can free will exist inside a creature, inside man, inside woman, if they could obtain free will and still have a desire to praise and worship their Creator. And so the playing field was leveled. Everything on the idea of can good exist outside of heaven, everything came down to Job. The devil was bound and determined to show God that free will and good can't exist outside of heaven. The depravity of man was on God's mind. The playing field had to be leveled. God had all the power, but he knew that he couldn't intervene if there was to be a showdown of can man truly want to love God, or if the devil gets his fingerprints involved, that they will just always turn their back on God. And the devil, knowing, like I said, he had no power over God, but him and his tricks and his deceitful ways, as he approached God here and said, I've found who you have once again put your trust in. Let me have a crack at Job. And God, having all power over Satan, but knowing that the playing field had to be leveled. God's trust and hope and love for mankind rested on the shoulders of Job. Job was a very wealthy and blessed and favored man, and the devil knew and was hoping that if he got Job to turn his back on God, that this would be the true indicator that man should have never been created. And so God, maybe resistant at first, but allowed for the greatest and most vicious attack in the history of mankind to happen. And Job lost everything. There are three things that help us through our lives here and today, that help us through difficult situations. One of them is the Bible, the guidance, the teachings, the wisdom that we seek and find in the Bible. But Job didn't have that. We have the hope of heaven when we've lost loved ones, knowing that we can see them again if we make it to heaven. But Job didn't have that. Through sometimes in our difficult circumstances, we have that moment where I'm going to do this because God died for me and I owe it to him to do this for him. But Job didn't have a crucified Savior at this time. This was a baseline demonstration of what man could bear, of what he could go through, of what he could deal with. Would he still want to have anything to do with God? Job was literally thrown into a den of wolves, while God, not maybe wanting to intervene, knew that for the sake of this battle, the showdown between him and the devil, that he couldn't get his hands involved, and that Job was completely by himself here, surrounded by the enemy. And as the angels and God, even himself, watched from the heavens, lurking down, wondering themselves, would Job actually survive this? But what was so unique, what surprised everybody, even God himself, I'm sure, instead of waving his fist in the air in anger to God, instead of bitterness consuming his life, instead of depression calling the shots on his life from now on, instead of trying to take control of the situation, he simply got on his knees and he grabbed a hold of the throne room and he prayed to God. And this right here was the moment that hope was born, because Job prayed for his friends. And that may sound silly, but what that was showing is that you can go through anything in life, and that you can still within you find the power and the strength to be about the Father's business, absolutely no matter what. And God and the angels rejoicing in heaven, this was the reason that I created man. It was for no matter what he goes through, that he can get on his knees and he can pray to me. And it was a showing to all of mankind for future generations that the same stuff that was inside of Job is the same stuff that is inside of you and all of us, that can power us through anything we go through. And so God, excited of, you read in the verse that Job prayed for his friends. In that same verse, we saw that Job was blessed more than his wild imagination. God said, you've shown me what you can do, that you stuck with us, that you survived. There's value in surviving through things. And so God blessed him, and then he blessed him, and then he kept blessing him, and blessed him some more. God was showing to the world that man has the capacity, no matter what, to survive whatever life has thrown their way. And you can have the relief, as Job here, knowing that I made it. Sometimes we don't get through everything perfectly, but there is value in surviving sometimes. And hope, the concept and the power of hope, transcends through all generations. It has been one of the only things that was so powerful enough to survive all these hundreds and thousands of years. The power and the concept and the idea of hope is something that we as Christians and children of the Father can really wrap our hands around and grab a hold of and let it power through us. And it's just to give you a more concrete example of how hope has transcended through generations. Well, I want to show you a very powerful scene, and this is something that actually happened. This was everything that you're about to see right now, to the smallest detail, happened exactly as you're about to see. And what you're about to see took place in May of 2013. Just as an example of how hope powers us.
Are you ready for your appointment today?
Yeah.
Gwyneth, I know you've been struggling with your arthritis since you were 2 years old, but I have a really good feeling about today's checkup. I just know that we are going to hear the word remission. I just know it.
Hey guys,
Hi.
how you doing this
Good.
morning?
Good.
Did you all have a safe trip in?
Yeah.
Good, that's wonderful, wonderful. Can you look up at me and let me look right in your eyes? Open them up real wide for me, okay? Okay, great, thank you. Let me see your hands for just a second. Okay, that's good, thanks. How about your legs? Let's look at your knees. Okay, you can put it down. How about this one? Okay. All right, very good, very good. Thank you for that. Emily, I'm so sorry. It's back. I'm so sorry.
God, I'm not sure we were going to hear that word, remission. I had it all figured out. What are we going to do now? Please, God, just give me some hope.
The Lord giveth, He taketh away. Blessed maketh the way. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I've served him before and I'll serve him today. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
In the face of all fear, hundreds and thousands of years later, that same idea and concept of hope was found upon in Gwen when she was 5 years old, in the face of certainty in the man's eyes that she would live a long and very hard life. But for many of you that have seen this week, she wears Aaron and Emily out. She runs non-stop, and it's rare anymore that she complains about pain, because the hope and the power that God, that she at 5 years old channeled into, and Aaron and Emily would say she was the rock of one of the, probably the most difficult thing they've ever had to deal with in their life. The power of hope. And really, as you look at this picture here, another reason the moment of hope was born at that moment that Job prayed for his friends. See, there was a very concerning reality that God was having to deal with ever since Adam and Eve sinned. It was that I've got to save mankind, but it has to be of the power of myself, but I need to use mankind to save mankind. So while it needs to be of the power of myself, it needs to be to the relatability of flesh and bone and human and mankind. And it was at this moment, or not at this moment, but the moment that Job prayed for his friends, showed and was confirmation to God that he could still feel confident enough to send his son, wrap his son up in flesh, send him to a world that would despise him, that would torture him, that would spit upon him, that would mock him, and that he still would have the confidence and the capacity, even through the limitations of human flesh, to carry out the mission of the cross. And that is the ultimate and perfect picture of hope, is the hope found through what happened on the cross at Calvary. And if you don't remember anything else as you leave this week, always remember this, that there's nothing in this world more dangerous than a child of God that has grabbed on to hope. You can shake your fists at God in anger. You can try and take control of the situations that you're going through, whether through college or whatever you may be getting ready to go through through this next year. That you can try and do anything. You can let bitterness consume your life. You can let depression grab hold of your life. But like Job did in that moment that hope was born, all it takes is for you to just drop to your knees in submission and grab a hold of the throne room and pray to God and show him, Lord, I have the hope that you can get me through this. Everything that will happen years from now will happen. But every time you wake up every day, I have the hope that I can make it through today. And then you go to bed and rest up and wake up. I have the hope that I can get through this day. And the same hope that got Job through his trial and his storm is the same hope that powered the strength of little Gwenny at 5 years old. That's the same hope that is going to get all of you through this next year, and that you'll come back here at camp stronger than ever, that you go through the next stage of your life stronger than ever. That idea and power and concept of hope transcends through generations. It survives and it lives and will always live as long as God is on the throne. And as they'll play and sing the song in full, just in your last Vesper here tonight, I just pray that you completely, 100% mind God and just let him have control of your life and show the devil that no matter what is happening, I have the hope that I'm going to get through whatever comes my way.
As the sun rose that morning, the day of Job's trial, he rose up to serve God as any other day, bound and determined to live in God's favor, and nothing would stand in his way. But then the messengers came, one by one with their stories. In just a few moments, Job lost all he had. Great wealth and riches, the health of his body, even his children were dead. The Lord giveth, he taketh away, but blessed be the name of the Lord. I've served him before and I'll serve him today. Blessed be the name of the Lord. As his wife came before him to voice her opinion, she said, you should end it, just curse God and die. But Job rose from the ashes and looked toward the heavens and brushed back the tears in his eyes. He said, the Lord giveth, he taketh away, but blessed be the name of the Lord. I've served him before and I'll serve him today. Blessed be the name of the Lord. When troubles come suddenly, blessed be the name. When storm winds blow violently, blessed be the name. When Satan comes oppressing me, blessed be